Hello, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to Business Breakthroughs presented by Invest Ottawa. I'm your host, Barbara Balfour. Stay with us for the next 30 minutes as we chat with local business owners who have navigated crisis during lockdown and who will share some of their secrets to staying resilient in challenging times. Tonight's show is the Pet Services Edition, and I have the great pleasure of being joined by two entrepreneurs who are very passionate of taking care of your four-legged friends in every way possible. First, I'm so pleased to welcome Kyla Denault. She is the owner and founder of Easy Breezy Dog Training. Kyla is a serial entrepreneur who opened one of the first cage-free dog kennels in the early 2000s. She volunteers with organizations like the Ottawa Humane Society and Heritage Canada, and she also enjoys kayaking with her dog Finley, who will be joining us today in a cameo appearance. They love going on fun adventures together. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show, Kyla.
Oh, thank you so much, Barbara.
Next, I'm delighted to introduce Amy Shannon Leclair, who is the president and CEO of Loving Paws and House Sitting. Amy Shannon launched one of Ottawa's first professional pet care companies and has been successfully in business since 2005. She offers services like dog walking, pet sitting, nail trims, and virtual vet care in cities across Ontario. Her company was voted Ottawa's best dog walking company of 2021. Thanks so much for joining us, Amy Shannon. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, you've obviously both been through a lot in the past year and a half, and I'm curious to know, to what degree do you think the pandemic has helped Canadians understand the lives of small business people? Have you found that your clients have become more understanding, or have they adjusted their expectations? I'm curious to hear about the feedback that you've received in your community. Amy Shannon, let's start with you.
Well, I was very lucky. I had a great support system when it came to our clients respecting the boundaries that, COVID brought on. But at the same time, we had some clients that continued to pay for services, even though they weren't receiving them, just to make sure that we would stay open for them for when it's all done and said and done, that we're still here.
That's huge. I guess you weren't expecting that.
No, not at all. It was definitely a blessing.
And so, did you end up losing business during the COVID pandemic with more people being home?
Oh, yes. And we earned a lot of new clients during the process, but at the same time, a lot of our regular clients, they're still working from home over a year now. And some of them not to working in the building. They might continue to just work remotely. So we're trying to do some pet care education when it relates to separation anxiety, behavioral issues, mom and dad working long hours because they're working remotely. So
I guess it's a huge transition when you're going off to work every day and all of a sudden you're at home with your pets 24/7. It's hard on both the owner and the dog.
Yes, definitely. Some owners, they say, my dog's driving me crazy. I need you to come and walk.
So it sounds like you may have even received more business because everybody was at home.
Well, not for pet sitting, of course, which was a big part of the services we offer, but our medical care has definitely increased. So a lot of people are having a hard time getting vet appointments, to either weekly subcutaneous therapy. So we actually provide those services at home now. Well, we have since the beginning, but it's definitely been an increase in services that we've provided.
That's really encouraging to hear. And I want to switch the conversation over to Kyla. Now, I want to hear how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected your business, but I also want to hear about the unconventional path you took to get here, because you weren't always a dog trainer. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
That's right. So I started off my career working in a variety of different roles, Crown corporations for a long time. So I had 10 years of government pension, and it was really, seeing everybody come into work just for that paycheck and just for that pension. And I was in my 20s at that time. And I was like, I just can't envision myself doing this for another 25 years. So I've always been an entrepreneur, starting one of the first cage-free kennels in the early 2000s while working full-time. So 16-hour days, 7 days a week. It was a lot. I sold the business in 2009. Yeah,
what
it was
motivated
really
you to
long
work
days.
so much?
Yeah. So, getting up really early, taking care of the dogs, driving it was in St. Albert, right next to the cheese curd factory. So it was really dangerous those years that I was living there. So many cheese curds. But yeah, it was a lot of work, and I burnt myself out. So I sold the business in 2009. But I think I lasted 6 months because, again, I was still in my role in a Crown Corporation, and it wasn't satisfying. So I started selling cedar barrel saunas, and then organizing speed date events and selling pet products out of my garage and going to festivals and fairs. So all of these businesses, and while working full time, and then I found some great companies, other Crown corporations, where I got to plan events around the world. So I got to travel to some really fantastic places and meet all sorts of people, which was really wonderful. And that actually gave me a taste of onboarding. I was doing a lot of onboarding with our staff from abroad, and I really loved teaching them. And that kind of helped me with when it kind of happened organically with the dog training business. I met a lady at a park with a dog. She was having issues. I said, oh, maybe I can help you. And I ran a cage-free kennel for 7 years. So that's kind of how I started my journey with Easy Breezy Dog Training, which will be 4 years old in August. And then I took the plunge 2 years ago in April to do it full time. So I left, and it was almost 20 years to the day from when I graduated from Algonquin College to the day that I left and decided to do this full time. And I was like, now or never. It was the right time in my life to take a risk. And then the pandemic hit, and here I am, I'm by myself. I've got a mortgage to pay. So it was really scary times because it was nothing, like no business last March. And it was really, really scary and not sure how I was going to make money. So it was very scary time last year. Yeah.
What was going through your mind when a year into your business, you encountered such an unprecedented setback that you never could have predicted in a million years? Did you at that point regret having chosen the entrepreneurship path? And looking back, how do you feel about that time? What lessons did you learn?
Mm-hmm. So in 2012, I had quit my job. I had started off a business, but I wasn't in a good financial situation at that time. So it was really, really stressful. So I learned my lesson big time that year. So when I made this decision to do this full time, I made sure financially I had about 8-9 months of an emergency fund. So if I started my business and made zero income, I was going to be okay for a bit. So when the pandemic hit last March, I was like, okay, I have this emergency fund that I luckily hadn't had to touch during getting, the business really, really going. So at least I had that. I had a bit of security, but it was still really scary because I wasn't sure once things reopened how it was going to be. But everybody got a dog during the pandemic. So it's been, as soon as middle of May opened last year, it was boom, the phone didn't start ringing. It was, dog after dog. So for me, it definitely helped. And then we went into the second lockdown. So then it was again back to, almost nothing. And luckily, this third time around, dog trainers, groomers, and walkers we were listed as essential service. So I was so thankful this time around I was able to continue working because there's so many people with pets and dogs that need the training, and puppies. So many puppies. I get to work, every day I wake up and I get to work with puppies all day long. So I definitely can't complain.
It sounds like heaven. I'm just curious, when you were doing your work with the shelters and with the Ottawa Humane Society during the pandemic, were they pretty empty?
They were. It was crazy when I would walk in there, whereas before it was really the cats. I noticed such a huge difference with the cats because the cats would, fall into a lot of the dog areas. My role there is canine behavior intervention. So I'm helping train the dogs so that they're more easily adoptable. And I would work with maybe 3-4 dogs, whereas other days I didn't have enough time to get through all of dogs that, that needed some training. So it was nice to see. A little worried as to how it's going to be in a few years, or when things kind of go back to normal, whatever that may look like. But hopefully they won't be busy like they've been before.
I'm struck how in my conversations with many entrepreneurs, they've all gone through some form of experience that has in some way prepared them somehow for what they went through during the pandemic. And that's a great segue to talk about your experience, Amy Shannon, where you had to do a pivot of your own years ago where you experienced a pretty significant injury. Tell us a little bit about that and how that affected your business.
Well, I broke my back falling off a horse. Thankfully, not mine, but I was hospitalized for a period of time, of course, in rehab and so on. And so I needed somebody to really step in and take care of my clients. So I hired one of my sitters, dog walker, as the admin assistant. And she took care of all the communications and emails and bookings. And she was definitely a blessing. Unfortunately, with COVID, I had to let her go, but I hope that she'll return someday. But regarding my back, it did make it harder for me to be able to continue doing the pet sitting and the dog walking. So my team definitely got larger to accommodate all these requests. So we're now about 20 sitters, dog walkers across Ottawa and Mississauga, Hamilton, and Windsor. So after COVID, we do plan on expanding some more.
That's very encouraging news. I'm curious, as you grow, that it comes with some growing pains, and I'm wondering what are some of the challenges associated with finding reliable employees?
Well, we're actually hiring right now to get ready for after the lockdown is over. I want to make sure I have the team in place. And it's difficult because a lot of people, they just want it as a side hustle. But we require that you're invested in your continuing education, that you get first aid and CPR training, and that you have skill set to bring to the team. So, loving animals is definitely a great start, but we do look for other skill sets. So it is challenging to find the right team, and I don't want to compromise on who I hire because that represents, my reputation and also the reputation of our team. So it is a challenge, but we'll get through it.
Did you start with the idea for your business by once being a pet sitter or a dog walker yourself? How did it all start?
Well, I actually worked at one of the largest animal hospitals in Ottawa, and I would regularly see patients coming in while under the care of a neighbor or a friend or a hobby pet sitter. And these emergencies could have been avoided if the person was properly prepared or at the same time educated more in pet behavior or medical care. So that got my brain going, and I'm like, okay, this is pets, and I would worry about them going back into care. So that's kind of how I started to pay attention. I wrote a book that's emergency handbook for my team that they have, and that educates them on the medical aspects. So signs to watch out for various common illnesses. And that's pretty much how I started.
How many pets do you have?
I currently have 2 dogs and 3 horses.
Oh, that's fantastic. You must, I was just going to say, you must live out in the country, and your love for animals shines through. You recently won the Faces Award. Tell us about that.
Oh my goodness. That was a huge surprise, to be honest. I really wasn't expecting it. I had no idea who nominated us. Either it's a client or, another business. I have no idea, but it really was a huge surprise. And even the whole team, they're proud of this, award. It's not a nomination anymore.
I'd like to shift the conversation over to Kyla. Tell me a little bit about some of the unique challenges that you deal with as a dog trainer. Do you ever encounter owners who feel that hiring a dog trainer is a sign that they've sort of failed at managing their dog's behavior? Do you have to overcome that kind of mindset?
It's a great question. I find by the time people are searching for me, they've made the decision that they need help in some form or another. Recently, it's been a lot of puppy owners, so they're really looking to set that solid foundation of training with their puppy right from the start. And then I'll get some that are, the puppies are in that 5-6 month old, which they're, the crazy stage and the shark attacks and the biting and jumping. So they're looking for ways on, correcting those behaviors. So I find by the time that they're looking for me, they're already made that decision that they're ready for a trainer. The biggest challenge that I find that I'm having to educate is expectations of an 11-week-old puppy. A lot of folks, expect them to, coming when called, not mouthing, not biting, not jumping. And, there just hasn't been enough of the consistency and repetition. I tell all my clients, you have to practice CPR, and it's not about giving your dog mouth to mouth. It's about consistency, patience, lots of patience, so much patience, and repetition, repeat, 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 repeat. So later on, your dogs, it's just, it's a habit by that point, once they've repeated enough of this good behavior. Mm-hmm.
Do you think there is such a thing as an untrainable dog?
No, God, no. And, it never too old to train your dog. When I did my dog certification in Ottawa, my previous dog, Breeze, and where am I here? Where is she? She's over here. That's her in the photo. That's how I named my business. She was a German Shepherd. She was rescued from the Ottawa Humane Society. And she was 11 when I did my certification. And I had to literally teach an old dog new tricks. And it was so cool
I
to
didn't know that
see,
was possible.
I know, it was so cool to see her at 11 years old learn all of these new things. And of course, if you got the right rewards and treats and stuff, she was just aimed to please. She just loved to do anything that I asked. So it was so cool to see her at 11, still wanting to learn and engaging and having fun with it. So yeah, it was really cool to see.
That's really neat to know that old dogs really can learn new tricks. So I'm definitely going to keep that in mind next time I hear that saying. What should people look for in a dog trainer?
So the dog training industry is very unregulated. So there's no standard, even when I say I'm certified, I could use quotes when I say that. So you want to find someone with experience. I do a lot of online learning. I'm always educating myself on different training methods. And you have to find someone that you can work with and that has the same beliefs with their training program. I tend to use a positive reinforcement approach. So if you're looking for that type of trainer, you're going to want to look for someone that trains in that method. But yeah, it's you really have to look around and do some digging and find someone that, and of course too, looking at Google reviews and your ratings and things like that will also help to know, about that trainer and making sure other folks are happy with them as well.
Before COVID, do you think people relied more heavily on word of mouth referrals than on search engines? I mean, it's such an emotional topic because our pets are our family members and we can't just hand them over to anyone. What do you think about this, Amy Shannon? What has your experience been?
Absolutely. I mean, when I first started the business, that was my first priority, is to network with animal hospitals. And the reason for that is everybody tends to trust their veterinarian, right? So I definitely built the business through word of mouth and referrals from veterinary hospitals. And then as technology changed, it became a lot of search engine. Referrals, if you wish. And as she mentioned, our Google reviews, I mean, we're very proud. We have a 5-star Google review, and our clients, they go above and beyond to try to, at the same time, not only reassure prospect clients, but also at the same time, giving praise to our team members.
So, have you found that the digital marketing strategy is the first thing to go by the wayside when you're just scrambling and trying to make a living? And especially when you've done so well on just word of mouth referrals so far anyway?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm lucky in the sense that I do run the business from home and my team is dispatched to their clients. So I do have the time to dedicate to it. But Digital Mainstreet Street from Invest Ottawa, that's the one thing that they really helped us with, is to create an online branding and keeping, the posts engaging and educational. And so that was a really great help.
How did you come across Invest Ottawa?
Well, I was getting very nervous. I have a team that I wanted to make sure they kept their jobs through COVID, and I did some online research, and I found them on one of the government's websites. Reached out, and it went from there.
And what about you, Kyla? What are some of the pain points you had that your work with Invest Ottawa and the Digital Mainstreet program helped you address or resolve?
Yeah, it was funny. It was right at a time where, because my business had really more than doubled in such a short time, I was having to, look at revamping my website, doing, a lot of social media, Google ads, all of that stuff. And I was going to have to hire, a lot of these people. And I kept, not pulling the plug because we were in the second lockdown. So this is the December to February one. I was like, okay, how can I go and spend these thousands of dollars when I'm not even bringing in any money right now? So I was hesitating to pull that plug. And then I've been following Invest Ottawa since right from when I started my own business in the early 2000s, back when they were at City Hall in the Entrepreneurship Center. So I've been using Invest Ottawa services, seminars, webinars, in person, all of their free stuff. I love free stuff. So
You've done
they
it all.
are fantastic. And they're so fantastic with the services that they provide. So when I saw that come up, I applied for it, with my fingers crossed, and lo and behold, I was accepted. So it couldn't have come at a better time. It had really saved me so much money, and it was such a fantastic experience. If you go to my website, easybreezydogs.com, they're the one that created that. It's so slick and chic now. I absolutely love it. And just all the stuff behind the scenes, like, Facebook ads, Google Analytics, all of that stuff, really making sure everything was done properly. And yeah, really, I told them, I tell all my clients that you want to set your puppy up for success. And what Digital Mainstreet was set me up for success in my business.
That's fantastic. Great news to hear. And so as more and more people get vaccinated and as the lockdown restrictions begin to lift and hopefully we go back to normal, whatever that looks like, as you said, what are your plans for the future and for your business? How do you plan to adjust, and what have you got in the works?
Yeah, so for Easy Breezy dog training, like I mentioned, business has just exploded. So I had to hire. I hired my best friend, who's my chief happiness officer, And
I
she
love
has
that.
my godson, Ozzy. Ozzy's a Great Pyrenees, so it's cool. We get to, bring our dogs to work. And I had to hire a graphic designer part-time. So I'm creating a lot of content right now for my clients. There's going to be an online academy coming. There's going to be an ebook, a number of ebooks coming in the works. I'm so excited for that. I'm leaving shortly for a cottage, and that whole week, even though I'm on vacation as a small business owner, you're never really on vacation. So I'm going to be filming a bunch of amazing content while I'm there. So there's lots to come. Folks could sign up for my newsletter to be sure to stay tuned for all of the things coming, and as well as on my social media on Facebook and Instagram. Mm-hmm.
You've got a great YouTube channel too. I really enjoyed watching some of your content. Just going back to Amy Shannon, we're almost at the end of our time together. Unfortunately, these shows are never long enough when it comes to what we can talk about. But can you tell us quickly what you've got in the works for the future? Anything else that you'd like to promote moving forwards?
Well, I wanted to mention that we did, throughout the COVID lockdown, launch our virtual veterinary consultations. We collaborate with Vetster. It's telemedicine, so it's just like calling in the nurse, but you're actually speaking to a veterinarian. So they can cover topics like skin issues, vomiting and diarrhea, those basic questions that are not an emergency, but even if you thought it was and you're unsure, you can reach out to a veterinarian instead of Facebook. But otherwise, moving forward, we're going to be promoting more and more our medical care, because that has increased significantly, and I don't think that that's going to change. And as I mentioned, we're going to expand to other cities in Ontario.
Well, it's wonderful to talk to you both and to hear that you've both been doing so well, that you've been managing your businesses and your clients, and you're continuing to take care of all our pets in the Ottawa and Ontario region. It's been a real pleasure connecting with you today. I want to thank you both for providing us with a front row seat to what it means to be a business owner in these challenging times. So thank you, Kyla, and thank you, Amy Shannon. Best of luck to you in your business. And to those of you who are watching tonight's episode of Business Breakthroughs presented by Invest Ottawa, don't forget to support local. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great night.